So the second wine we had, the red, was 100% Merlot, as we've talked about, and it comes from the eastern side of Spain, in the region near Valencia, called D.O. Utiel-Requena. The winery, named Palo de Zarces, produced this 100% Merlot, and they named the wine Argilla, which actually translates to clay, in order to honor the soils where it comes from. Now, this wine does come from the D.O. Utiel-Requena. However, because that D.O. does not allow Merlot to be used in those wines, they have to classify the wine as Vino de Pago, which is technically a classification below a D.O. status. However, the winery is part of that D.O., so it is still a very high-quality wine. Now, the winery is owned by a very famous cava producer named Vicente Garcia, who is actually coined the godfather of Valencian cava. So while the winery is quite famous for producing various cava bottles, we wanted to introduce this really delicious, totally different red wine, especially a Merlot, which the grape is started to see a renaissance in the last couple of years. They celebrate traditional methods of winemaking with very minimal intervention philosophies, and they've been doing it since the 70s. This winery is certified organic by both the EU and Spain, which you'll see on the back of the bottle. The leaf icon represents the EU, and the CAECV represents the organic certification specific to Spain, as this winery is strictly using only organic fertilizers and materials to maintain a balance of nature and enrich biodiversity in their soils. As you'll see in the screen in front of you, this winery is not exposed to the drastic landscape like you saw in the Ribera Sacra region of the Godello you had prior. However, they do experience a continental climate as they are more inland from Valencia. So while they do benefit from a Mediterranean coast every now and then, the winery is still producing wines in a very hot, arid climate. However, being in a continental region, they have a really strong diurnal shift. That simply means that there's a large difference in the temperature between the daytime and the nighttime, which allows the grapes to evenly ripen throughout the season and maintain the acidity. Now, this winery is quite famous for its portfolio of cavas, so we wanted to show you a picture of their limestone and chalk caves that they currently use to this day. This Merlot comes from an even smaller plot of land than the Godello we had previously. Including only 2 hectares of 100% Merlot, this fruit is not only hand-harvested in small 10-kilogram crates, but it also hand-selected in the cellar, so they are optimally picking the correct bunches to go into the final wine. This Merlot is then transferred to a concrete tank to ferment with native yeast only. Once the fermentation completes, they transfer the wine to first and second use French oak barrels, where it rests for 12 months before release. The wine is completely unfiltered and unfined, and they do that in order to conserve its structure and aromatic characteristics, just like we saw in the natural winemaking philosophy. So, naturally there will be sediment when you complete the rest of this bottle. But remember, it's harmless, don't be scared. So with that French oak barrel contact for 12 months, and them already being used before, there's going to be a light impart of flavor and characteristics into the final wine. So that sandalwood and slight char note that we got in the tasting notes, that's coming from that. And we're also noticing those expressive aromatic notes of jasmine and lavender coming through, because those wines are not only sourced from high quality fruit in a very small vineyard, but they're not filtering any of that out before they bottle. So we hope you enjoyed this wine as well.